Picture this. It's 1971. A family arrives at their new home, a secluded farmhouse in Rhode Island. They're excited for a fresh start. Little do they know, they're stepping into a nightmare. The Perron family's story is the terrifying reality behind the movie The Conjuring. The film sent chills down spines worldwide. The real story, it's even more bone-chilling. This wasn't just a movie. Ed, a demonologist, approached each case with a focus on the demonic. Lorraine, a clairvoyant and medium, used her gifts to connect with the spiritual realm. Together, they faced countless hauntings, each more disturbing than the last. Their reputation preceded them. The Warrens were a beacon of hope for those tormented by the unknown. They were drawn to the Perron family's plight. The Perron family's new home was a picture of New England charm. The sprawling farmhouse promised peace and tranquility. But beneath the surface, darkness lingered. The Perron family's dream home quickly transformed into a nightmare. They were a family of 7. Roger and Carolyn Perron had 5 daughters: Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. From the moment they moved in, things felt off. At first, it was just strange occurrences. The family's initial skepticism gave way to fear. The haunting grew more intense with each passing day. The house seemed to come alive at night. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Disembodied voices whispered their names. The girls began to witness apparitions. Shadowy figures darted in the periphery of their vision. Carolyn, the mother, became the target of a particularly malevolent entity. An unseen force tugged at her nightgown, leaving unexplained bruises on her body. Fear became a constant companion. The Perron family found themselves caught in a terrifying downward spiral. The paranormal activity intensified, pushing them to their breaking point. The entity, it seemed, fed off their fear, growing stronger with each terrified scream. The children, once playful and carefree, were now shadows of their former selves. Carolyn, bearing the brunt of the attacks, grew weaker. Roger, desperate to protect his family, tried to rationalize the events. This was no ordinary haunting. They needed help, and they needed it fast. The Perron family, filled with dreams of a brighter future, had stumbled into a nightmare. Their excitement over the charming farmhouse quickly soured, replaced by a creeping dread. The house had stood for centuries, a silent witness to the joys and sorrows of those who had crossed its threshold. But within its walls, a darkness festered, a malevolent presence that resented their presence. The Perrons' once peaceful existence had been shattered. They were trapped within the clutches of a haunting that seemed to tighten its grip with each passing moment. As the Perrons delved into the history of their new home, they unearthed a past steeped in darkness and despair. Local historians and townsfolk whispered tales of the farmhouse's sinister reputation. Stories of tragedy, murder, and suicide clung to the property like cobwebs. One name, however, echoed through the whispers with chilling frequency: Bathsheba. She was said to have been a witch, a malevolent entity who had practiced dark rituals within the farmhouse's walls. According to local law, Bathsheba had met a gruesome end on the property, her spirit forever bound to the site of her demise. The more they learned, the more convinced they became that they had stumbled into something far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. The name Bathsheba became a chilling refrain in the Perron household. The children claimed to have seen her, a gaunt figure with piercing eyes and a malevolent grin. Carolyn, the mother, seemed to bear the brunt of Bathsheba's wrath. She reported feeling a dark presence watching her, tugging at her clothes, whispering threats in her ear. Objects moved on their own when Bathsheba was near, doors slamming shut, furniture overturning. The Perrons found themselves caught in a terrifying battle between good and evil. The Perron's research into the farmhouse's history painted a grim picture. Over the decades, the property had been home to generations of families, each touched by tragedy and misfortune. There were stories of drownings in the nearby creek, children falling victim to the currents. Farmers had lost their lives in gruesome accidents. The stories were like pieces of a macabre puzzle, each one adding to the unsettling picture of suffering and despair. The farmhouse had become a chilling reminder of the darkness that lay hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic life. When Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived at the Perron family farmhouse, they were met with a palpable wave of despair. The air hung heavy, thick with a sense of dread. Even before stepping foot inside, they could sense that this was no ordinary haunting. The farmhouse, once a picture of New England charm, now stood as a symbol of terror. The Warrens, with their decades of experience, approached the case with caution and determination. As they crossed the threshold, they knew they were entering a battleground. The Perron family, huddled together, looked to the Warrens as their last hope. Lorraine Warren, with her extraordinary gift of clairvoyance, became a conduit to the other side. Her visions unveiled the tragic history of the farmhouse and the tormented souls trapped within its walls. She saw Bathsheba not as a monstrous entity, but as a woman consumed by jealousy and rage. Lorraine saw other spirits too, each one a victim of the farmhouse's tragic past. Lorraine's visions painted a heartbreaking tapestry of suffering and despair. The Perron family began to understand the depth of the darkness they had unknowingly invited into their lives. Ed Warren, a devout demonologist, approached the case with a keen eye for the demonic. He sensed a darker force at play, something far more insidious and malevolent. Ed's investigations often led him to the darkest corners of human history. In the Perron case, Ed saw the classic signs of demonic infestation. He suspected that Bathsheba had unwittingly opened a doorway to a realm of unimaginable darkness. This entity fed off the fear and suffering of the Perron family, growing stronger with each passing day. The Warrens, armed with their faith and determination, prepared for a supernatural showdown. Ed, with his crucifix held high, confronted the entity. Lorraine used her abilities to communicate with the tormented souls trapped within the farmhouse. The Perron family clung to their faith, their love for one another the only weapon they had. The battle raged, a terrifying clash of wills that pushed the Warrens to their limits. The farmhouse became a battleground for the soul of the Perron family. The outcome would determine not only the fate of the Perron family, but the very essence of the Warrens' beliefs. The seance, a dangerous gamble. Tension crackled in the air. The Perron family huddled together, fear etched on their faces. The Warrens, sensing the escalating danger, decided to perform a seance. It was a risky move, a dangerous gamble that could either appease the entity or unleash its full wrath. Ed, with his crucifix in hand, stood guard, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of danger. Lorraine, her senses on high alert, prepared to enter the ethereal realm to confront the entity on its own turf. The room grew cold, a bone-chilling draught extinguishing the candles and plunging them into darkness. A hush fell over the group, the silence broken only by the sound of their own ragged breathing. Lorraine, her voice trembling slightly, began to speak, her words reaching out into the darkness, seeking contact with the entity. The air grew heavy, the atmosphere thick with anticipation and dread. Suddenly, the room erupted in chaos. Furniture overturned, objects flew through the air, and disembodied voices filled the darkness, their whispers laced with malice and rage. The entity, it seemed, had taken the bait. It was a terrifying display of power, a demonstration of its control over the physical world. The Perron family screamed, their fear palpable, their hope dwindling with each passing moment. The seance, a desperate attempt to regain control, had backfired, unleashing a wave of paranormal activity unlike anything the Warrens had ever witnessed. The entity, enraged by their intrusion, seemed to focus its wrath on the family, tormenting them relentlessly. Carolyn, already weakened by the entity's attacks, became its primary target. She would wake in the night, her body covered in bruises, her mind filled with terrifying images. The entity whispered to her, threatened her, promising to claim her soul as its own. The children, their innocence shattered by the horrors they had witnessed, lived in a perpetual state of terror. They refused to sleep alone, their dreams haunted by the entity's malevolent presence. Roger, desperate to protect his family, fought back with every ounce of strength he could muster. But the entity, it seemed, was toying with them, relishing in their fear and despair. The Warrens, though shaken by the intensity of the haunting, refused to give up. They consulted with priests, researched ancient texts, seeking any advantage they could find in this terrifying battle against the unknown. The farmhouse had become a prison, its walls echoing with the family's terror, its very foundation seemingly corrupted by the darkness that had taken root within. The haunting had left its mark, a scar on their souls that time would never fully heal. The Conjuring terrified audiences. It became a box office smash. But how much of the movie reflects the Perron family's real-life ordeal? Hollywood often takes liberties. They amplify the scares for entertainment. The core of the Perron family's experience, that's real. The haunting was brutal. It left the family emotionally scarred. Years later, they still hesitate to discuss the horrors they endured. The film captures the essence of their terror. It showcases the Warrens' dedication to battling the unknown. However, the movie takes creative license. It exaggerates some events for dramatic effect. Some of the terrifying visuals, Hollywood magic, but the fear in the Perron family's eyes, that was real. The evil they encountered, that was real too. The Conjuring serves as a chilling reminder. The world is full of mysteries. Some mysteries are best left unexplored. Ed and Lorraine Warren dedicated their lives to the paranormal. They investigated hundreds of cases. They faced countless horrors. Their work continues to fascinate and terrify. They left behind a legacy of chilling tales. Their investigations, including the Perron case, inspire books, movies, and documentaries. The Warrens' work is not without controversy. Some question the validity of their findings. They accuse them of sensationalizing events, but no one can deny their impact on paranormal investigation. The Warrens brought the conversation about the paranormal into the mainstream. Love them or doubt them, their stories linger in our minds. They remind us that some things can't be explained. What do you think? Share your thoughts on the Warrens and the chilling story behind The Conjuring in the comments below. And don't forget to check out my other videos for more terrifying tales from the world of horror and the paranormal.